Hello everyone, welcome to today's Parenting My Pocket Q&A. Hope you've all been keeping well. It's quite a nice evening out there now. It was a bit dodgy earlier on, a little bit of rain, but it is what it is. It is Ireland, as I say. So what's been happening? There's been a few things going on. For those of you who maybe haven't seen, I have a free talk on parenting teenagers tomorrow evening. It's been organised through the Kevin Street Library in Dublin. So if you are able to, if you want a ticket, you can email. Now, let me grab the email. It's Kevin Street Library, KEVINST or EETLIBRARY at dublincity.ie. I will pop that into the comments section as well, so you guys have it. So if you're interested in attending tomorrow's free talk, it is going to be taking place at 6:30 Irish time in the evening, and you can sign up and it would be great. So I'm going to pop this into the chat now as we're talking, so you guys can send the email, get your seat booked, and come and listen to me talk about how to parent a teenager. And sometimes it's not just all about parenting a teenager. Sometimes it can feel like maybe parenting a partner or a parent that you might have. So sometimes it can be very interesting to come along to those talks and get some tips on how you can manage your relationships with everyone, never mind just your teenagers. What else? Yeah, we've decided to keep our courses, our Parenting in a Pandemic course, free for the foreseeable future. So jump on, and on this coming Friday, I think we're going to have our free webinar. So for those of you who've signed up, we will be sending out an email today or tomorrow, just to give you the details on our free webinar that we have in once a month, where you can come and ask as many questions as you might have about the course or anything to do with parenting. You can come along. So that'll be heading out, and we're keeping our online courses at the reduced rate for this foreseeable future, because you guys have enough to deal with without having to worry about paying a few extra quid for it. So if you're interested in taking one of our courses, they're staying at the reduced rate. So what else has been going on? That's pretty much it. We had a Parenting After Separation and Divorce course last Saturday. That was a live course, and it went really well. We got really good feedback. So if you or anyone you know is going through separation or divorce, get in touch and we can look at getting you onto the next course, because it can. The good thing about this course is that it helps you manage yourself through the process to create an environment of security as best as you can for your kids, because you're the adult and ultimately you will get over it. That's not to say that you're not hurting right now, but you will get over it. But in the end, your children are children and they need you to be able to take care of them too. So that went really well, really good feedback. We have a couple of questions today that we're going to plough into, because I don't think there's anything else I need to let you know about at the moment. Hi Alan, I need some advice. I am absolutely fed up of arguing with my 15-year-old son. Everything seems to be a battle with him. If I ask him to empty the dishwasher or put his clothes in the laundry basket, it turns into a shouting match and I end up giving up. Have you any tips to get him pulling his weight and help me to keep sane? So there's probably a ton of you out there now going, amen, I know exactly how that feels. All those things that pop into our heads as parents where we go, if you just did it, it would be done and this argument wouldn't even have taken place. We're now 2 hours into an argument, you're upset, I'm upset, and the stuff still needs to get done. Because teenagers don't work on logic for some reason. Who knows why? But, teenagers work on their own logic. And it's a very special logic. It's a very honed logic. And I wish I knew exactly what the logic was. But, what can I tell you? They just don't do what we need them to do, that if they were to do, would save a lot of hassle for everybody in the short and long term. But the okay, let's explore conflict for a second, right? There are phases of conflict. So to start off, there's the pre-conflict situation. So that's where there is an issue that will allow conflict to take place, like not putting clothes into a laundry basket, right? So that's your pre-conflict situation. So it's happened in the past and it keeps recurring. Then you have the initial phase, the triggering event. So you go up, open the door, and there's laundry on the ground. So that's you being triggered. Then you have the initial phase where you go, oi, you, come here. Why are those clothes on the floor? Then the next phase is the argument where the two of you are having a go at each other. And then the last part is the resolution, where you figure out a way just to either forget about it, everyone just, you put a consequence in place, whatever it might be, but you go and there is some sort of resolution, and then you either come back and somebody apologises or there's no apologies and you just get on with it. So there's a phase of conflict, and you will see the pattern repeating over and over again. And usually we call it the dance. So you do the same steps over and over and over, and both you know the steps. So for you in this question, you and your son know that there are things that trigger you, right? He's not changing them anytime soon. So on a subconscious level, he knows what's going to happen is Mom's going to give out to me about my clothes being on the floor, and then I'm going to shout at her, and then she's going to shout back at me, and we're going to have an argument, and then she's going to give up and she's going to put the clothes into the laundry basket. Now, I'm not saying that he is thinking that through in those steps, but that's what he knows is going to happen underneath. So why would he change? He can put up with the argument because you're going to do what you want him to do anyway. So the argument is manageable for him. It doesn't mean that he likes it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't frustrate him or upset him, but he can cope with it. And that versus doing what you need him to do, there's no comparison. So the easiest place for you to deal with that cycle of conflict is at the pre-conflict stage, right? The first stage. Now you might go, well, how? Do I just go in and pick up the laundry? No, because that's still frustrating you. So recognize within yourself, what is it about this situation that is upsetting you so much? The chances are it's probably that you're feeling like you're the one that has to do all the work. You're being disrespected, that he's not pulling his weight, that he's not doing his bit and he should be doing it. So if that's the case, acknowledge what your own emotions are, right? But also look at what are the stresses that you have going on around it. Are you worried about money? Are you worried about bills? Are you worried about putting food on the table? Are you just worried about having a child who just never does anything that you want? So look at the other stresses that you have and how they can influence. Because you know those days, you have those days where it doesn't bother you quite so much. And then there'll be the days where it'll drive you bananas. So the easiest place to cut it off, as I say, is at the pre-conflict stage. So maybe you go in and say, okay, I'm calm right now. You're calm right now. Let's do it together. And he might look at you going, you want to touch my crusty cacks? Well, you're going to be putting them in the washing machine anyway. So you're going to go, no, I'll help you put it in the laundry basket now, so that saves us an argument. And then you do it the next day and you help him. And then, but he has to take part. He has to do his bit. He might be more inclined to do it if you're helping him. And then the next day you do the same. And then the next day you pick up a little bit less. And the next day you pick up a little bit less. And then what happens eventually, you just go in the basket and you say, here, chuck those in there for me, will you? So we don't have an argument and I'll go and get this washing done. And you're moving it towards a point where you are not actually picking the stuff up and he's putting it into the laundry basket. Now you might be prompting him. And then you can start to go, okay, as you're walking past, stick ahead. Do us a favour. Just throw those in. I'm putting a wash on now in 2 minutes. Will you just throw those into the laundry basket now for me? And then you move on to, okay, before you head off to school, will you throw that stuff into the laundry basket for me so I can put a wash on? Okay. Now, this can take a bit of time, and I'm not saying that he's going to do it. He might just go, no. But that's when you look at, well, what is the consequence I put in place? And that might be taking the phone, taking the console. So, we're switching the Wi-Fi off until you put that stuff in there. Right? Now, again, you might have other kids in the house who are going, that's not fair. So you have to decide what's going to work for you in terms of a consequence. But look at your child. What are the things that you're going to do? But that's still going to be possibly getting into a cycle of conflict. Right? So pre-conflict stage, try and deal with it at that stage. Okay? And the helping is the easiest place to move that on. And give it a go and see. The other thing I'd say is, like I'm saying over here, look at what's going on for you. It's okay to sit down with your son and say, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Work is really stressful right now, and trying to manage everything in the house is really stressful. Can you do me one favour, sweetheart? Please. And you're really helping me out. It's not a chore that you're asking him to do. You're really helping me out. Would you mind just emptying the dishwasher for me, please? I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And it's amazing when we're vulnerable that the positive response we can get. Now again, you might not get a positive response. You might get a child, I don't care how you feel. Don't care. But again, that's where you look at, well, do we need to put a consequence in place? But you're always looking for different ways that you can implement that without getting to the argument stage. So you're not getting triggered and then you're not moving on to the argument. And once we change the steps in that dance, it is amazing. We catch people off guard and they go, hold on. Normally what happens is mom comes in and she gives out yards. That's not happening now. What's going on? Like, what is happening? And that's where you can start to change that dance. Okay? And give it a go and see how you get on. Alright? And look at deal with your own stress levels. Do you need to look at things and change what's happening around you? Do you need to look at changing work? Do you need to look at having a chat with your boss about maybe taking some time off or reducing, where you're at in terms of the hours that you do? So look at those and see how you get on. But what you're trying to do is get to that pre-conflict stage and deal with it in the now. Okay. Second question for today. Hi Alan, another hi Alan. My daughter is returning to school next week. This would be her last few months in 6th class, which is the last year of primary school here in Ireland before you go into secondary school. So probably around 12 or 13 years of age. And she's very excited about moving. We recently received an email from her teacher with an outline of what would be covered over the final few weeks, and one element would be relationships and sexuality as part of their SPHE curriculum. We've talked a little bit about her body changes and so on, but she becomes embarrassed very easily, and having looked at the booklet that accompanies the talk, it goes into a lot more detail than we have ever discussed, and it also talks about boys' puberty too. I don't want her to miss out on this talk, as I think it's very important, and maybe we should have talked to her more over the years about what can I say to her now to prepare her for it, so she won't become too embarrassed in front of her class and possibly upset if it gets too much for her. Okay. The old relationships and sexuality talk with kids is one of those events or times in many parents' lives where they're just like, oh God. And in a lot of children's lives, they're like, oh no, I don't want to have this conversation. So this parent is saying that they haven't really had too much of a conversation about relationships and sexuality with their children, and about puberty for boys and stuff like that. So they haven't had too much. So you can't rewind and start to go, well, let's have little chats here, there, and everywhere about what happens and how things go about. There's a few things I would say, right? Have the conversation with her about, okay, you're going to be having this discussion, and some of the things that might come up are what we've discussed in the past. So we've talked about this, we've talked about this, we've talked about this, we've talked about this, and name the things that you've discussed, and remind her that she knows this stuff. And then you can say to her, and there are a few other things that may be coming up as well, like this and this and this and this. And it may feel a bit embarrassing, and name it. Name it with her. It may be embarrassing. You may feel a bit kind of, oh no, because you're in the class with everyone else. You may not feel embarrassed. You might feel absolutely fine. And talk about, the teacher is going to be having this conversation. Your teacher may not feel as comfortable, but there may be giggles going on in the class. There may be people making funny noises. If it's a mixed school, there's a good chance that the lads in the class could be, saying things or shouting things out. But she has nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's okay if she feels uncomfortable because you haven't talked about it yet. But what we will do is we can sit down and have the conversation afterwards and answer any questions that she may have. There are also tons of books out there, right? Brilliant books that help kids to start to process and understand what's going on for them. Without that one-to-one where they're having to answer questions or listen to you talking about it, where they're going, oh my God, I can't believe my dad is actually talking about this right now to me. I want the ground to open up and just swallow me up, right? So the books are really good at letting them think about it and process it in their own time, at their own leisure. And then you can dip in and check out with them and check in to see, well, did you read this section? Okay. And have you any questions about it? They might go, no questions. And you say, well, I'm curious about what the book says. So what does the book say about this? They may feel uncomfortable, but they may kind of go, oh, it just talks about this, this, and this. And you're okay. You may feel uncomfortable about other adults talking about this stuff with your kids. You may feel uncomfortable about other kids, what they might say on, outside in the schoolyard. But it's normal. And maybe it's okay for you to know that it's normal, and it's okay to say to your daughter that this is normal. It's normal to find this a bit unusual because it's not your normal school stuff. It's normal for people to giggle. It's normal for people to ask questions, to be curious. It's all normal. And we are here to talk about anything that you might not know about. And you can also ask, is there anything you want to talk about now? Before you go, like, is there anything that you would like information on or to ask us, so that you have an idea of what to expect when you go in, and then you can answer the questions that you feel is appropriate for them and that they're asking you. So you're laying the groundwork for them to go in, and they're not being hit by, I've never heard of any of that stuff. Oh my God, that means, oh my God, that is just disgusting. So you can answer those questions for them before they go in, without overloading them, where you're going, right, we have to cover everything so that you don't feel embarrassed. And then you're bombarding them with sex and relationships before they go into school on Monday. And they're absolutely petrified about going, oh my God, I'm traumatized after what happened, and now I have to go through it all again with my whole class and my teacher. So reassure her. Let her know that it's normal for it to feel a bit unusual, for maybe people to giggle, for questions to pop up. Remind her what she's discussed with you. Ask her, is there anything that she'd like to know before she goes into the conversation. Let her know that she doesn't need to feed into the giggling and stuff like that either. If she, that she doesn't need to be making cracks or jokes or anything like that. If she may be inclined that way. And then just look at, okay, we can have this conversation. Here's the book that you can have a read and ask any questions about if you have any. and we'll sit down and we'll discuss it over the next few weeks, because the reality is the school are probably not going to just bombard them with one session, boom, there you go, there's everything. They're going to split it up over the course of a few weeks so that it's manageable for the kids. And ultimately it's a good thing. This is a good thing, because she's starting to learn about her body. She's learning about the body of boys, and she's learning about relationships and what are normal relationships. So that's actually laying a foundation for you to have conversations with her in the future about when relationships come along and how to be in a relationship, and just be there for her. That's all you can do. Okay, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Please do take care of yourselves. There is no Parenting in My Pocket Q&A next week because it is St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day to you all from us in Helping to Parent. Wherever you are, if you're celebrating at home, if you're not celebrating at all, we hope you have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day next Wednesday, and we will see you the following week. Take care.